I'd like to say good evening to everybody. Um, I know the broadcast supposed to start at 9 o'clock. When I put the time up for 9 o'clock, I was actually talking about a Negro time, so that means it's gonna be about 9:20. But no, sorry about that. Um, but I'd like to go ahead and get into the lesson this afternoon. It's mainly gonna be dealing with the Sabbath day. If you, as you can see from the title of the lesson, let's see here. Make sure I have the right. Make sure I got the right title for it. Okay, let's see here. It's called God's Holy Day, still Saturday, the seventh day, not Sunday. So the reason I want to look at this is because you have people that's actually been in the Word for a long periods of time. Um, Preachers, uh, pastors of churches who hold fast to Sunday worship and don't really have an understanding of what the Lord's Sabbath day is. And I know tradition has given us Sunday, and that's what most people don't understand is that the Lord never changed the Sabbath day from the seventh day of the week to the first day of the week. God never did that. Um, Man is particularly speaking about the Roman Catholic Church. They're the one that changed this the day of worship or the day of rest from Saturday to Sunday. But in the Bible, you'll never see that. But before we actually get into the lesson and open up the Bible, I just want to show you a few things from history books to kind of prove my point. Because when we say things like, well, 325 A.D. Constantine he changed it from the day of the seventh day to the first day, and we can say that, but it make more sense if we can follow with history, because even though I said it to certain people, they still don't believe that Rome is the one that has their tentacles and everything, whether it be sun worship, worshiping on Sunday, whether it be even Easter. Rome has their Rome is behind them. Christmas, if you just look at the word Christmas, you break it up as Christ Mass. Jesus never observed Christ Mass. Rome gave you that. It's the Mass of Christ. And who deals with Mass? Rome does. Roman Catholic Church. So Rome is the one that's giving you all these different doctrines. But it actually came from Egypt. And what the Gentiles did or the Roman Catholic Church did, um, in order to keep the pagans happy, keep the Jews happy, in a sense, not really, but mainly keep the pagans happy, and try to serve God or try to have some sense of morality as far as God is concerned. They allowed the pagans to keep their worship, and worshiping the sun. That's pagan worship. That's worshiping of another god, and this has been going on for centuries, thousands of years, and we'll be able to see that this evening. So let's look at a few things in encyclopedia, and these just just an encyclopedia that I got offline. Craigslist a few years back. So a free encyclopedia. And I'm gonna just show you some things right quick. Ain't gonna go in depth in history or nothing like that. Just want to kind of prove my point before we actually get into the Bible. Because I have a few scriptures that somebody sent me online, trying to prove why Sunday is the day of worship. But we're gonna go into the Bible and actually see if that's the case. All right. But this particular encyclopedia, it's called the World Book Encyclopedia. See if you can see it. Oh yeah, that came through good. These are old. We used to have these in my parents' house when I was a kid, and all this information inside of them, I never read it. But they had the truth sitting right in your face. We just had it for decoration, kind of like what we do now. But I pull them out, when it's necessary. All right, so we're gonna look at Sunday. Now, it says here, and keep this in mind. Why keep remember this, because when we go into the Bible, you will see what the Lord actually sanctified. Was it the first day or the seventh day? All right, so it says Sunday, in the encyclopedia, the World Book Encyclopedia on page 788. It says Sunday is the first day of the week among Christian peoples. That's what it says, peoples. It is the day set aside for rest and for worship of God. Sunday was the day sacred to the sun, S-U-N, not S-O-N. It says Sunday was the day sacred to the sun among the old Teutonic peoples, and its name means the day of the sun, S-U-N. That's why it's called Sunday, right? And it goes on to give you Sunday in different languages, how you pronounce it in different languages. It says it gives you three different names. To the last one, the Latin one that it has, it says these three names all come from the Latin words Dies Dominica, which means Lord's Day. So that's false, because the first day of the week is not the Lord's Day. But we're gonna look at that. It says the early Christians lived hard lives and had to work on Sunday, as well as the other days in the week. But they made Sunday a day for special worship because the resurrection of Jesus occurred on that day, which we're gonna find out that's a lie too. All right, because Jesus did not rise on the first day of the week. It says, but they made Sunday, not God. Nowhere in the Bible did he change it. He said, but they made Sunday uh, a day for special worship because the resurrection of Jesus occurred on that day. By the AD 300s, both the church and the state officially recognized the day as a day of rest in Europe. Okay, so it wasn't like this during Jesus' time. It wasn't like this during Paul's time. Moses' time. Uh, they were not observing Sunday as the Lord's day of rest. All right. This is what man gave you. And this took place around 300 AD. Actually, 230 years after Jesus was dead. This is when it became instituted as far as mankind is concerned. This is when they went on and made it official in Europe. And this is what we have today. The next paragraph says in the United States, some states have laws that forbid labor on Sunday. All government agencies and banks are closed on Sundays. A few states and communities have laws that prohibit such amusements as ball games and motion pictures on Sunday. Hell, they can't even keep their own doggone law, can they? It says a few states. So this is how you know it's picking and choosing, because when it comes to God, you ain't doing none of this on his day, period. But it says a few states regarding to the United States and communities have laws that prohibit such amusements as ball games and motion pictures on Sundays. So some states say you can't even go to the movie on Sunday. But some states allow you to go to the movies and have ball games on Sunday. Now you look all around the world. I mean, you look all throughout the United States on Sunday, even overseas now, because the Jaguars, they play overseas in the UK on Sunday, right? Every year. So all over the world, they're not observing the day that they consider the day of rest, or they're not even observing the laws that they set up. That's how you know it's garbage. It's a bunch of nonsense. It says a few states and communities have laws that prohibit such amusements as ball games and motion pictures on Sunday, right? It says such laws are called blue laws, right? So let's go look at these blue laws. I have my other World Book Encyclopedia. This would be the under B. Blue laws. Let's see here, and all this stuff is mainly, it's here for you to read. You can Google this stuff online. You have to really want to find out what it is you're worshiping, because it's not, God didn't give us this day, and you're gonna have to answer for why you haven't been keeping the Lord's Sabbath day. It says blue laws. Blue laws were the first printed laws of New Haven Colony in Connecticut. They were given the name because they were bound in blue paper. Today, the term blue laws refers to laws designed to enforce morality as some lawmakers understand it, such as laws prohibiting certain types of recreation on Sunday. So we could pick and choose what type of recreation we can have on Sunday. It ain't supposed to be nothing going on the day of worship. If Sunday is the day of worship, we shouldn't be having no ball games. Not certain type of forbidden ball games, none. But it's folly anyway. It says so they have the blue laws mainly are things. Some it says some lawmakers understand it as such as laws prohibiting certain types of recreation on Sunday. Right. Let's see. We're gonna skip around. Okay. Some of the most famous of the and this on page 332 in your World Book Encyclopedia. And this is an old edition. I think this is the 1970s edition. It said whoever attempts to change some of the most famous of the 45 laws that Peters, the one who actually put down these blue laws, listed are the following. Let's see here. We're gonna get right to the one regarding Sunday. Okay, let's see here. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, no one shall travel, cook victuals, make beds, sweep the house, cut hair, or shave on the Sabbath day. Now, he's talking about Sunday. So if you call yourself a Sunday Christian, right? You go to church on Sunday, right? If Sunday to you is the God's holy day, right? This is what's on the books pertaining to what you're not supposed to do, right? It says, no one shall travel, cook victuals, make beds. So if you can't make beds based on what these laws are saying, you know doggone well you can't wash no car. That's one thing we were doing all the time when I was coming up. We would wash the car before church. But it says no one should travel, cook victuals, make beds, sweep the house. Can't sweep the house, cut hair or shave on the Sabbath day, right? No woman shall kiss her child on the Sabbath or fasting day. So you can't even kiss your kids on the Sabbath day. You know, it says the last one, it says no one shall cross a river on Sunday but an authorized clergyman. That's all superstition. The Gentiles, like First Corinthians let you know, the Gentiles sacrifice the devils. It's all superstition. That's all this is. Like, why can't you cross a river on Sunday, but an authorized clergyman? Like, is there some gators or something? What is this all about? But this is what's on this is what are on the books regarding Sunday, being the holy day, right? Now, even if you pay attention to society, they don't have funerals on Sunday. If you notice, they have them all on Saturday because in their mind, Saturday is not the Lord's day. But we gonna see that the Lord's day is the seventh day of the week. This is the day that He sanctified. We already saw in the other encyclopedia that Sunday is the first day of the week, and that hasn't changed. This is what the encyclopedia is telling you. This is what you look. If you look at calendars today, you see an S in the front, you see an S on the end. The first S is a representation of Sunday. That's why after that first S, you have you have M, T, W, T, F, S. I have to tell you what that means. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? It's not SS. It's not Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, it's Sunday, Monday, right? Because Sunday is the first day of the week. Now let's kind of move a little further. This another book I have called Satan's Angels Exposed, right? And it kind of goes into the paganism of sun worship, but we're gonna get right to the point. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on history. I want to actually go into the Bible and disprove the lies of why people actually observe Sunday as being the Lord's Sabbath. Disprove it because it's false doctrine, and the Lord's Sabbath day is necessary for you to get into the kingdom, which a lot of people don't understand. Let's see here. We're gonna go to page 54. It says on Wednesday, May 3rd, 1978, the United States paid homage to the sun, not the SON, but the SUN. It was called Sunday, SUNDAY. All right. When they paid homage to the sun, they actually named this day. It was called Sun Day. President Carter flew to Colorado, which is Jimmy Carter, who's still alive today, lives in Georgia. Um, he flew to Colorado to deliver a speech to the Solar Energy Research Institute. There were sunrise service and solar displays by both industry and the U.S. Army. Now, that should ring a bell, right? It says there was sunrise service every year around Easter, right? That's what they observe. They have sunrise service early in the morning, and they go to church for Easter, right? Well, they weren't honoring God. God had nothing to do with this. As we just read, they were honoring the sun, and they called it Sun Day, and it's still in existence today. Let's see here. There were sunrise services and solar displays by both industry and the U.S. Army. About 12,000 people attended the speech making at the Washington Monument. The entire United States population had its attention focused on the sun, the SUN. It says why? Because national leaders believe the sun offers man last hope of survival in a day of depleting energy. The sun is man's last hope for life. So is the sun man's last hope for life, or is Jesus man's last hope for life? Jesus said, I'm the light of the world. You know what I'm saying? He said, if you keep my saying, you should never see death. This is what Jesus said. Not the sun, but this is what the pagans are giving you. This is what the Gentile is giving you. But it goes back to Egypt, which we'll see. It says, many turn to the sun in awed worship. The worship of the sun is not new. Over 3,000 years ago, the Egyptians worshiped the sun. So, like I told you, this isn't something that Rome just made up. They just actually allowed the pagans to continue worshiping like they did, and they just stamped Jesus on it. You know what I'm saying? Like they were already worshiping the sun, so we just put Jesus on it and we say it's the Lord's Day, right? That's exactly what happened. They were already having sex inside these temples, uh, worshiping the goddess of Astarte, the sex god. They was already doing that, you know. But they stamped Jesus on it and they called it Easter. They put Jesus on it. But they've been doing this. This has been around. Easter is a form of sun worship as well. Mother's Day and Father's Day also. All right. But it's been around and they just put Jesus on the back of it. And this is why it's saying here the worship of the sun is not new. Over 3,000 years ago, the Egyptians worshiped the sun. While the Babylonians called the sun Utu, the Egyptians called it Ra. And you have some brothers nowadays and sisters nowadays who don't know who they are, don't have a clue who we are as black people. We are the Hebrews, the Israelites, according to the Bible, that got scattered in the worldwide captivity because of our disobedience. But if you don't know that, like the Bible says, you're going to grope in the noonday. It's going to be bright outside, but you're going to be groping. And he's giving you that analogy because you're going to be looking around trying to find out who you are. So since we are that type of people trying to find out who we are because we lost, we just grab onto Egyptology because we think those people in Egypt or in Africa, because they look like us, they were us and they were not us. So you have a lot of people today calling themselves Egyptologists. All right, but this is what they worship, the Egyptians, and they still do this today, worship the sun god Ra. They give a lot of credit to Ra. It says the center of worship was at Heliopolis. Pharaohs were known as the son of the sun. So it says here pharaohs were known as the son, the SON, of the SUN, son of the sun. Sun worship in Egypt gradually spread to the solar cult of Rome. And this is why, if you may think that sun worship or Rome has nothing to do with uh, the churches today, but Rome influences these churches in every way, shape, or form. This is why the Bible calls it the mother of harlots. And she has daughters, excuse me. She has daughters in all the different doctrines that you see that are out here today. They don't come out the Bible. Rome is the one that gave you this. And Rome grabbed their false doctrine from Egypt. So it says sun worship in Egypt gradually spread to the solar coat of Rome. In the 3rd century AD, the emperor Heliogabalus created the coat called Sol Invictus, which means the unconquered sun, S-U-N. And in 274 AD, the emperor Aurelian built a large temple in Rome to Sol Invictus. So they've been doing this. This has been going on for a long time. It says sun worship is the real religion of India even today. I think they call themselves Muslims and something else. I can't remember what they doing. Do they do Buddha? Or is that Chinese people? Indians do Buddha, right? Well, I know the Chinese people do. They rub the fat belly man, you know. But the point is, it ain't just with the churches here in America. It's all over the world. They worship the sun god. It says sun worship is the real religion of India even today. So uh, the Indians, they worship not over here, but I'm sure they do too. Worship the sun. We're gonna skip down a little bit to a second to the last paragraph. It says not only did the Egyptians worship the sun, they also worshiped the moon, the bull, the crocodile, the hawk, the cow, the baboon, the goat, and many other animals. The goat and bull were especially sacred to the Egyptians as representing sexual creative powers. All right, so, and there's even some more in here. Let's see here. Do I need to go on any further? Regarding sun worship. Okay, yeah, here's a good one. Page 61 regarding the Druids and Christianity. Let's see here. It's on page 61, the last paragraph. It says the Druids celebrated a number of feast days. And these are not God's feast days, all right? It says at dawn on the 25th day of December, the birth of the sun god, the S-U-N God, was celebrated. So even December 25th, that has nothing to do with Jesus. That has nothing to do with the Bible. This is all things, these are all things that were made up. This is false worship. It says the Druids had a Madonna, a virgin mother with a child in her arms, and their sun god was resurrected at the time of the year corresponding to that at which we celebrate Easter. So you see what's really going on behind the scenes. It's paganism, it's wickedness. It has nothing to do with God. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into Constantine's sword. I have a book here called Constantine's Sword, right? And it's different areas in this book that talks about, his agenda, how to infiltrate the church, how to infiltrate the Jews, how to bring pagans together and form this thing called Christianity, which is what you have today. You don't have the Jesus of the Bible being preached. You have a different Jesus being preached. But Constantine is the one that called the Council of Nicaea together. It tells you that in this book, called the Council of Nicaea together, and 250 members came together, and they were forced to come to an agreement on sun worship. They were forced to come to an agreement to say that Jesus is God. As a matter of fact, it tells you they couldn't even decide on what day was Easter. So they're all over the place. But this is what Rome gave you. All right. They solidified it 325 AD under Constantine. Um, so that's what we mean when we say things about the Sabbath day was never changed. Sunday, 325 AD. This is what Constantine gave you, and we don't just make this up. We actually have history to back it up. But let's go into Ezekiel. We're gonna go into the book of Ezekiel. I believe it's Ezekiel. Is it 4? It might be Ezekiel chapter 8. Give me 1 second. I'm going to show you that this has been going on for some time, and God has never been pleased with it. So I don't care how much you try to. Ezekiel chapter 8, we're going to start like around verse 10. But I don't care how much you try to clean it up. I don't care how much you say that, you can worship any day. It doesn't matter to God. That's not the case. So let's go look and see how they've been doing this for some time. Ezekiel chapter 8. We're going to pick this up at, let's see here. Now this is the Lord speaking to Ezekiel. We're going to pick this up at verse 5. It says, Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted my eyes the way toward the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. Now, this is what Ezekiel is seeing, but really what he's actually seeing, he's seeing God jealous because he don't like us worshiping other gods. That's why he tell you in Exodus chapter 20 that I'm a jealous God. Don't have no other gods before me. He said further unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do, even the great abominations that the house of Israel commit here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary. But turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see great abominations. And he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. So the Lord is bringing, getting ready to show Ezekiel some things that are happening regarding Israel, and mainly in this case, the ones that, the elders that's supposed to be, being an example to the people. Notice what they're doing. So he said, dig the wall behold the door. When I digged in the wall, behold the door. And he said unto me, Go in and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall about, right? There stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jazaniah, the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and the thick cloud of incense went up. So they was worshiping another god, right? And whether, even though you've seen in verse 10, it said, And behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. So they was dealing with the stuff forbidden by God. All right. It says, Then he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, every man in the chambers of his imagery? For they say, The Lord seeth us not. The Lord hath forsaken the earth. This is how you know they have been doing something pertaining to that, because they're doing it as if God don't see it, But he see it. He see it. Not only is it on the wall, but something is going on with it that God is, letting Ezekiel know that they act as if I don't see them. He said, The Lord seeth us not, for they say the Lord seeth us not. The Lord hath forsaken the earth. He said also unto me, Turn thee yet again, thou shalt see greater abominations that they do, right? He says, Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. So even this goes way back to Egypt, the worship of Tammuz. That's what Nimrod and Tammuz and Semiramis, all that go back to Egypt, But even during Easter time, when people afflict themselves and stuff like that, they say they're doing it for Jesus. They doing it really for Tammuz. I got another book that'll show you that. It's called God's Holy Days and Men's Holiday, something like that. I got it free offline too. But it was weeping for Tammuz. Like they had no business dealing with this false worship. All right. But that's a great abomination, all right. That's God said, let me show you something even worse. He said, Then he brought me to the door of the gate, verse 14, gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz, right? So that was bad, but hey, it's going to be something even worse than this. Verse 15 says, Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. I'm going to show you something worse than this. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, inside the church, right? He said he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord. This is what you see going on today. Not to say that they are actually in God's temple, But when you're dealing with church, hey, to the world, that's where the word of God, is supposed to be coming from. That's why you ever see somebody walk into a church, they say a cuss word, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cuss in the Lord's house. I know it ain't the Lord's house. I know these false churches, God don't, he's, he ain't really, uh, expecting too much out of them. But the point is, the world does. So he's saying, he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple. But right here, this is the real deal. This ain't these false churches that you see today. This is Israel that's held at a higher standard. They in the, the Lord showing them at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, there were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, right? And their faces toward the east, and they worship the sun toward the east. Now, first off, that's a great abomination. How you gonna be inside the temple of the Lord and you got your back toward the temple, worshiping the sun toward the east? And then second off, how you gonna be worshiping the sun, period, when we ain't got no business doing that? The Lord, has a problem with that, and it's still going on today. See, Satan is crafty. Go look at Jeremiah chapter 10. Satan is very crafty, and most people don't pay attention to Satan and his craftiness, because he'll use things that sound good. Christmas for the kids, that sounds good. We're gonna get the kids gifts. That sounds good. Mother's Day, hey, ain't nothing wrong with honoring your mother, right? It sounds good. Father, ain't nothing wrong with honoring your father. And I know some people even say, well, that's it has nothing to do with religion. I hear some people even talk about in the truth, don't deal, they deal with it. They say, well, that's a custom of America. And that's fine if you want to believe that. Me personally, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. I like to look at it like this. When the Lord get back, is he going to be keeping Mother's Day? When the Lord get back, is he going to be keeping Father's Day? If you say to me no, then why are we doing it? You understand? Why are we doing it? Why are we observing this stuff? But just think about it. You have the opportunity to dig a little bit further, which I took the liberty to dig a little deeper. Mother's Day is sun worship, and Father's Day is the climax of sun worship. All right. I know they give you the nice little spiel. Oh, lady lost her son, and so they just made a day to honor the soldiers that died. Okay, well, I mean, Satan know how to clean stuff up. Mother's Day ain't just honored in America though. It's honored all over the world, and it didn't just come into existence when America came about. Mother's Day has always been around. Father's Day has always been around, because it has something to do and everything to do with sun worship. You see. So me and my house, we're not dealing with that. If you want to deal with that, hey, you go ahead. But I personally choose not to. Jeremiah 10 and verse 1, it says, hear you the word which the Lord speak unto you, O house of Israel. Notice what the Lord is saying to the children of Israel, right? And if you call yourself servant of God of the Bible, you're going to have to come up under the Commonwealth of Israel and do exactly what he told them to do. He said, thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So, for instance, don't be dismayed, don't be amazed at the sign of heaven. That's what that's what we mainly are consumed with today, the signs of heaven. As soon as you see an eclipse like we saw last year, the world is coming to an end. Like, you just saw eclipse. That's all you saw. That's all we saw was the eclipse. We didn't see the world come to an end. People calling me, asking me, am I scared? No, I'm going fishing. It doesn't bother me, because I'm not dismayed at the signs of heaven. But if you notice what he said, thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, because the Gentiles or the heathen, their worship is not based in what God has told them to do. All right. This is all things, these are things that they made up. One of the things that the Lord did in Egypt, he brought darkness. They was worshiping the sun. But the Lord showed, the Lord showed them his power. He brought darkness, made that sun go down. As a matter of fact, the Bible lets you know it was so dark that it was darkness that could be felt. So the Lord was showing them, like, listen, I'll tear down your sun god. I tear down all your God, your fish gods. I tear all that stuff down. You know, but God don't want you being dismayed at the signs of heaven. All right, and this is where Sunday has came into play. That is false worship. Let's go into Genesis uh, chapter 2. And this is after God had created everything, right? You look at Genesis 1, you're going to see the creation, the beginning of the world, uh, pertaining to how the first 6 days he did everything, even made man. And on the seventh day, he rested from his work, right? So let's pick this up at Genesis chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished and all the hosts of them, right? And it says, verse 2, and on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. So this is what God did. He worked 6 days, and on the seventh day, he rested from all his work, right? But what else? Let's see what else he did on the seventh day. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it. He didn't sanctify or bless the first day of the week. Now, we saw in the encyclopedia that the first day of the week is Sunday, right? That day is not sanctified. Okay. The day that the Lord sanctified was the seventh day. Now I want to show you something. I want to show you something because it's real simple. It's in your face, but we just don't pay no attention. Now, if you look at July last month, like I told my wife and kids, last month it started perfect. I think last year around October did the same exact thing. But July, the month that just passed, right? It was a perfect month. Check out the calendar. Let's see if you can see that. It's going to focus, I think. All right, bam. All right, can you see that? All right, if you look at July 1st, all right, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? You see that? It's July 2018. The first day is what? Sunday. Second day is Monday. Tuesday. Wednesday is what? The fourth day. Thursday is the fifth day. Friday is the sixth day. Saturday is the seventh day, right? That's real simple. And I hate to have to do it like that, but when you have these false preachers out here, they twist the scriptures up, man. And I just want you to see that you have things so closely, even things in your hand, that'll show you that nothing has changed. It's just that Satan is the one that's behind the scenes and giving you these lies. So July, that Sunday, was the first day of the month, right? Which is still the first day of the week. But when July started off, it started off on Sunday, 1, 2, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But there's a constant. If you look at your calendar, not just my phone, look at your normal calendar before they change things around. This is how it's going to be laid out. It's going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And it just so happened in July, hey, you saw Sunday being the first day and you saw Saturday being the seventh day. It actually said that. Sunday was day 1. Saturday was day 7, But that's how simple it is. It's real simple. So if you understand that, you'll see that the day that God sanctified was the seventh day of the week. It wasn't Sunday, the first day. So it said God blessed the seventh day, sanctified it, because that ended he had rested from all his work, which God created and made, right? So he rested from all his work. So what should you be doing as a Christian or someone that's following God? What should you be doing? Let's go to Exodus chapter 20. Let's see what you should be doing. Because the Lord laid it out real simple. He laid it out into he laid it out in the Bible and his commandments, real easy for you to understand, right? And direct. It was straight to the point, direct. So if somebody's telling you that a Sabbath is no longer in existence, it needs to be direct, just like it was direct and to the point when he told you to keep it. You understand? And I'm saying that for a reason. I'll tell you after we look at these right here, you'll see exactly why I'm saying this. But Exodus chapter 20, this is where God came down personally and gave the 10 Commandments to the children of Israel, and even the strangers that happen to be among them. This is why what we read in the Bible today regarding the commandments, the law, statutes, and judgment, it's good for everybody. Like thou shalt not kill is not just for the Israelites. You know, you mean to tell me God tells Israel not to kill, but the Gentiles and the Hamites, they can go around killing everybody? I mean, what if, you're gonna be mad about that? Matter of fact, you're gonna try to persecute the murderer for killing somebody in your family. So it's good for everybody. Don't try to pick and choose. It's good for everybody. This is not just a law for the Jews or the Israelites. All right, so the first 4 commandments, God is going to tell Israel what they need to do in regards to dealing with him as a God. All right. Now, when we get into what the Lord wants us to do personally regarding ourselves and how we should carry ourselves, let's see what the first thing he's going to say. Exodus 20 and verse 8. It says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's the first one he's going to say. He said, 6 days shall thou labor and do all that work, right? So you got 6 days. Like this is a fair exchange. Even Jesus himself, he had 6 days and he rested on the 7th day. And the reason I'm saying Jesus, because that was him that was actually that did the creating. And he's the one that rested from all his work. But it's a fair deal. I mean, you got 6 days to do everything you need to do. What's so important about you washing your car on Saturday? Washing clothes and cleaning your house and stuff like that. Well, I mean, what's so good about that? Ain't nothing good about that. God gave you 6 days to do that anyway. All right, but let's see what day he's going to tell you to chill out on. He said, remember the Sabbath day. As a matter of fact, did I even get the definition? Hold on one second, y'all. Genesis chapter 2. Go back to okay. Well, let's see here. Genesis 2 and verse 2. On the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day. And that's what the Sabbath day is. It's a day of rest. But the day that he decided to rest on is the 7th day, right? So go back to Exodus 20. All right, so in verse 8, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, right? That's a day of rest. Sabbath day that the Lord set aside. You're going to remember that day to keep it holy, right? So another time we'll look at what it is you have to do. But, just to sum it up in a nutshell, you ain't doing no buying, you ain't doing no selling. Everybody's resting. It's good for everybody. You're going to have a holy convocation. That's the day you're supposed to have church on. Leviticus chapter 23 lets you know that. This is when you're going to have a holy convocation with the saints. Then afterwards, after you have the holy convocation, after you have church, you go home and rest the rest of the day. For some of us, they may go home and get into the word or chill out. But, you resting from all your pleasures. Talking about football and basketball, the clubs and, fishing and all the different things that come with those other 6 days. You leave that alone when you get to the Lord's Sabbath day. All right. Tells you that in Isaiah 58. So it says 6 days shall thou labor and do all that work, right? Then it says, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. So it's not the Sabbath of Moses, correct? It said the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. So this is what God gave man to do. He didn't give this just to Israel. It's good for everybody, because if you notice, when he first instituted the Sabbath day, hey, Israel was nowhere to be found. You see? So now he has delivered Israel out of captivity. Now he's making known to them his Sabbath, one of his Sabbaths. He said, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. So nobody should be doing no work on the Sabbath day, not even your animals, not even your dog. If he guarding the house, he need to chill out that day. He can take a break. Everybody can chill on the Lord's Sabbath, right? He said, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day, right? So he took you back to the beginning. That's what he did. That's what he did for Israel right there. He sat there and laid out to them his, about the Sabbath day. And he gave them an example of what he did. So he just went back and quoted what happened in Genesis chapter 2, which we read. I think Genesis 2, right? So he said, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, right? and he rested the seventh day. He didn't rest the first day, right? That's why I told you to pay attention to that calendar, because the first day was Sunday, right? The seventh day was Saturday. So the day you're supposed to do all your work on, the days starting from day 1 to day 6, then that's the time for you to deal with everything you need to deal with personally. But on the seventh day, it's time for you to rest. He say, and he rested the seventh day, wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So that's the day he blessed and hallowed. He did not bless or hallow the first day of the week. I know people like to say you can rest any day, you can worship God any day. They are absolutely correct. You can worship God any day, but you ain't commanded to rest every day. That's the problem right there. That's where you misconstruing the word of God. All right. Exodus chapter 31. Exodus chapter 31. Sabbath means the day of rest, and the seventh day is the day that he command you to actually rest, right? That's the day that he hallowed and sanctified, right? That's real simple. You know, I hope, this is easy to follow. All right, now let's see here. Exodus chapter 31. We're going to pick this up at verse 12. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, verily my Sabbath ye shall keep. For it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. So he has an S on the end of that, but as you read further, you can see he's speaking more toward his weekly Sabbath. Like it's gonna be more than one Sabbath that you're gonna keep. Yeah, it's gonna come around more than one, just 1 week, just 2 weeks. You're gonna have this Sabbath often, a whole lot. So he said, verily my Sabbath ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I'm the Lord that doth sanctify you, right? Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. But he's going to tell you specifically what Sabbath he's referring to in verse 13. He's going to go into describe it in 14 and 15. He said, you shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defile it shall surely be put to death. So if somebody got to die for defiling the Sabbath, evidently this is very important, right? For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul should be cut off from among his people. So if you do any work pertaining to the Lord's Sabbath day, you're gonna be cut off from your people. He's speaking to Israel here, but hey, you're gonna get cut off in the end, because the requirement for you to get into the kingdom of God is keeping God's commandments. You know what one of those commandments are? Remember the Sabbath day. So verse 15 says, 6 days may work be done. So now he's telling you what he's talking about. He says 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest. So once again, we got that 7 again, don't we? We're not gonna see in the first at all. He says 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord, not holy to Moses, holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. This is what he's talking about when he say keep my Sabbath, because it's going to come around more than one time. You're going to keep this Sabbath forever throughout your generations, right? For a perpetual covenant. He said it is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. Not when Jesus coming down the cross. He said this is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days, once again, taking you back to Genesis chapter 2, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed, right? So what you think gonna happen to you? You're going through life 6 days. You got bills you got to worry about. You got to worry about food in the house. You got to worry about getting back and forth to work. Then when you get to work, you got to worry about your boss. Work for yourself, you got to worry about your customers. You got to worry about making sure money's coming in. Money, you got all these different things to worry about. Not to mention sickness and disease. Different things you have to worry about, right? 6 days you have to deal with this type of stuff. He said, wherefore the children of verse 17. He said, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested. So on this day, listen, put all that stuff to the side. I know it may be tough, especially when you haven't been taught to live in this manner. It can be tough. But you have to train yourself. You have to train yourself to hey, let everything let the water roll off your back, like they say. Let the water just roll off a duck's back. Don't even pay no attention. Put it to the side. But now pay attention to what happens after God rested, though. He said on the seventh day he rested, right, and was refreshed. And that's what you have to do. You got to rest, and you're going to feel better. This, when you first come into the word, when you first come into the true word of God, it's habits that it's a habit that you got to, force yourself to learn how to observe. Because we've been doing stuff contrary to God for so long. But when you come into the word, like I say, you force yourself because you want to keep the command. You want to do what's right. And then it becomes like second nature. You look forward to actually keeping the Lord's Sabbath day. It's like we at the point now, we be looking forward to the Sabbath day to get here. And like for me, myself and other brothers, we don't actually rest from work, period, because we preaching the gospel. Like we preach the gospel from sun up. We dealing with the word, putting lessons together, get to church, preaching the gospel, and preaching the gospel and dealing with the word all the way until sundown. So we don't get to rest from work completely, but we do rest from our work. You understand? And I look forward to that because I don't got to worry about nothing. I get to fellowship with the brothers and sisters in the Word of God. We get to open up the Bible, crack the Bible, and deal with the book all day long. And then on top of that, we learning about the kingdom of God. We learning about our salvation on this day. And then we come together. Listen, ain't no bickering going on, ain't no fighting going on, because that's like our little heaven right there. That's the closest thing to our kingdom on earth right now. Because we have the mindset and understanding that 6 days we have to deal with all type of nonsense. On the seventh day, we get to church, have a holy convocation. Hey, we're not dealing with that. We're letting all that stuff go. All right, so now let's go to if you want to see what Jesus did. I wasn't trying to go and read it, but evidently I need to. Because if you call yourself a Christian, you need to have the same mannerisms as Jesus did. Luke chapter 4, verse 16, after Jesus got baptized, he go around, start preaching after Satan tempted him. Let's see what he did. In verse 15, it says, 14, as he came out of the wilderness, it says, and Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him throughout all the region round about. And he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. Hold on one second. This light is super bright on my freaking head. It says, he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. And it came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, hold on, this is too bright on my head. It's making my eye hurt. Okay. There we go. It said, as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. But that was his custom, right? His custom was to go into the synagogue, not on the first day, because we know it says Sabbath day, right? But based on what we just saw out of the law, the Sabbath day is what? It's the seventh day of the week, right? That's the day that the Lord blessed and hallowed and sanctified, the seventh day, not the first day. So, the little slogan that say, what would Jesus do? He would keep the Sabbath day. That was his custom. So he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. Let's go look at Paul, because most people like to follow Paul's instructions over God, not understanding that Paul wasn't kicking against God. He was saying the same exact thing. And to prove that, let's see what his custom was. Acts 17 and verse 1, it says, now when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where was the synagogue of the Jews, right? This is what Paul was doing. He was, going through his little voyages and traveling. And it says, and Paul, as his manner was, another word for custom, his way of life, the way he did things, right? And Paul, as his manner was, went in unto them 3 Sabbath days and reasoned with them out of the scriptures. So not only did he do it 3 Sabbath days in a row, back to back, to back, right? He also reasoned with them out of the scriptures. So that kills two birds with one stone. The first bird we killing is that you ain't got to keep the Sabbath. When Jesus died, he did away with it. That's a lie because Jesus dead and gone, and Paul's still keeping the Sabbath, right? And another thing is that we don't got to keep the Old Testament no more. That's another lie because Paul, what he did was he reasoned with them out of the scriptures. The scriptures, in this case, we talking about the Old Testament. You see? Verse 3 says, opening and alleging that Christ must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Jesus whom I preach unto you is Christ. But he was reasoning with them out of the Old Testament. When? On the Sabbath day, the seventh day of the week, the day that God sanctified and set apart. So now let's go to some different notes I took off the comments that was put on my page a few weeks ago, because I put some on Facebook saying that if you went to church today, you wasted your time because God didn't sanctify this day. He sanctified the seventh day of the week. So I'm just trying to help you save gas. So, and I had a guy come back and put a comment on my page. A guy known for a while, he's a preacher, and needless to say, he's a false preacher. And people, every time you get into a conversation with somebody about the word, and you're disputing back and forth, this is how people always have to lead with, "I love you, bruh, but this, and this." Well, that ain't how I led. This is how he led with me. "Yeah, big dog, I love you, but the first day of the week, listen, you ain't got to tell me you love me. That don't faze me. I'm still gonna cut you with the word of God because it's a lie." So, like I said, I've known this guy for a while. He's a good guy, has a great heart, but he teaching false doctrine. And that's why I'm really dealing with this, because it's in hopes of saving people. Whether it be the brother I'm referring to, which is a Gentile, whether it be him or whether it be somebody else, the point is that for you to get understanding on the word and change from your wicked ways. If you can't go into the New Testament, which is what we're about to look at, and it don't come flat out and say that you don't need to keep the Sabbath no more, I've done away with that, then it's false doctrine. If someone's telling you that you ain't got to keep the Sabbath no more. All right. So now let's look at this. First thing it says, Jesus was resurrected on Sunday. That's not true. Let's go see when Jesus was resurrected. John chapter 20. It says, the first day of the week come Mary Magdalene, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and see if the stone was taken away from the sepulchre. Then she run and come to Simon Peter, and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and saith unto him, they have taken him. So the point is, right, she came to the sepulchre on the first day of the week while it was yet dark, right? So in God's eyes, the way a day works, the evening and the morning makes a day. Right. So when the sun went down this evening, that took us into the first day of the week. I'm sorry, excuse me. That took us into Friday. That's really how it operates, the sixth day of the week. All right. So when the first day of the week took place with Jesus, he was already gone. That's why it says the first day of the week come Mary Magdalene when it was yet dark. So from the whole time period that is dark, she came early when it was yet dark. You see the stone taken away, right? The first day of the week come Mary Magdalene when it was yet dark unto the sepulchre and see the stone taken away. So she come early and see that Jesus, looking for Jesus, and the stone is already taken away. And they ran in there. You go and see that. They go inside the sepulchre and see that he ain't even there, right? Okay. So this is one place they say the first day of the week. They use this. Anytime you see first day of the week, for the most part, they use this to say, okay, see, the Sabbath is changed to the first day of the week. Just because it said first day of the week, that don't mean nothing. It don't say it changed. Let's go look at Matthew chapter 28. Look at something. Now let's look at this right here. Regarding Jesus' death and when he got up and rose from the dead. It says in the end of the Sabbath, right? All right, so the Sabbath is coming to an end. It says in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, right? came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre, right? So that means Sunday hadn't even got here yet. It says in the end of the Sabbath, meaning the Sabbath was still in play, right? As it began to dawn, as it began to move toward the first day of the week, a dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre, right? But it says as it began to dawn, meaning the first day of the week hadn't even kicked in yet, okay? They came to the sepulchre, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, right? They looking for Jesus. And notice what it's going to say, what the angel going to say in verse 5. He says, and the angel answered and said unto the women, fear not ye, for I know that you seek Jesus, which was crucified. That's who you're looking for, right? The one that got crucified. What are you going to say, though? He said, he is not here. Wait a minute. He gone? The first day of the week ain't got him, and he gone? And that's what it say. It said, he is not here, for he is risen. As he said, come see the place where the Lord lay. So he was already gone. So that debunks that nonsense right there. See, well, Jesus, he rose on the first day of the week, so this is why we keep it. Listen, even if Jesus did rise on the first day of the week, you still don't have nothing concrete saying change it. Change the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday. You understand? See, we saw some concrete evidence in the Old Testament and told us exactly what to do regarding the Lord's Sabbath. Told us exactly what to do, right? You're going to rest on the Sabbath day from all your work, just like he did. It's the seventh day. He blessed and hallowed the seventh day, right? So to undo everything Jesus said, you're going to need to find that in the New Testament. If you cannot find that, that means it's still good. And somebody lying. And Rome is lying. Rome is the one that's behind this. And if you got preachers that are preaching that, guess what? They lying to you as well. So they came to the sepulchre looking for Jesus. Verse 6, it says, he is not here, for he is risen. As he said, come see the place where the Lord lay. So the angel, hey, he's going to go take him and let him know his body gone. He ain't even here. That's go to show you that when you die and you get up from the grave, the whole body is getting up. It ain't just your spirit walking around somewhere. Everything is getting up. Okay? But he was gone. That's the point. And it had even got to the first day of the week. Okay? So the first day of the week can't be Resurrection Sunday. That's one of the statements, the comments that was made in the dialogue we were having. You know, he said the first day of the week is Resurrection Sunday. That's a lie. That debunks that. The Lord did not resurrect on the first day of the week. All right. So we got to kill that. All right. Now let's go to Acts chapter 20, because he's one of the scriptures that he used here to say, I guess this is what they use. And as a matter of fact, I had to do I went through the painstaking task of actually watching another guy's video on YouTube to see what their belief is as far as this is concerned. And everybody goes to Acts 20 and verse 7. Let's see what was going on in Acts chapter 20 verse 7. Let's get some understanding on this. We're gonna start up. We're gonna pick this up at verse 6. And this is Paul still doing his voyages, right? It says, and we sailed away from Philippi after the days of unleavened bread, right? So that means the Lord's holy days were still in existence. The Feast of Unleavened Bread is a holy day that God set aside. So it said, we sailed away from Philippi after the days of unleavened bread and came unto them to Troas in 5 days, where we abode 7 days, right? And upon the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread, Paul preached unto them, ready to depart on the morrow, and continued his speech unto midnight. Okay, what's the point? Like, where does it say that the Sabbath day changed? Like you get what I'm saying? I hope you can see how simple this is to read, but how it's not making sense that it changed. You know what break bread means? He came and ate. And then he gave him the word of God. It says the point. So he came on the first day of the week when the disciples came together to break bread. That's what they came to do. They came together. First off, they came to eat. It says, and upon the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread, that's what they came to do. They came to eat. They didn't come to change the Sabbath day. As a matter of fact, it don't even say they came together to preach. It just so happened when they came together to break bread, Paul preached to them. That's like if some brothers, we do it all the time. We'll have a get together and end up dealing with the word. You know what I'm saying? And it may go on 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours because questions start coming up. The spirit get involved. You know what I'm saying? And we start opening up that Bible, start going from the Old Testament to New Testament and stuff like that. Hey, we just broke bread on that particular day. Matter of fact, every first Sunday of the month, we come together for a little thing we got called the Bible in Plain View. And we have different brothers get up there and preach a little lesson and so on and so forth. But that don't mean we change the Sabbath day. And that's all you see going on right here. They came to break bread. They didn't come to change nothing. They don't say that. It got to be clear, cut, and precise for you to say that God's Sabbath day has been changed. And it don't say that. It just says, and upon the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread, Paul preached unto them, ready to depart on the morrow, and continued his speech unto midnight. That's all. And the young man fell out the window. He came and grabbed him, and he got up from the dead. That's it. He embracing him, and he got the man up. That's it, though. That's all. You don't get nothing else out of that. Stop lying. Stop making up stuff. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 16. Because see, this is why, like I told the guy that was writing me all this stuff online, I said, I'm not reading this mess. Because first off, it's a bunch of garbage. Second off, I'll look at what you post, and I'm gonna go through what it is you post. And if it's true, hey, it's true. If it's false, it's false. Either way, we gonna deal with it. All right. So now okay, this is too simple, man. It's really too simple. I can't believe people who call themselves preachers, get deceived with this type of stuff that's so easy to understand. How people say read it in context. What's the context of this conversation that we're about to read in 1 Corinthians chapter 16? It says, now concerning the collection for the saints. That's what this is about. Concerning the collection for the saints. Going around to different churches. When I get there, I already have the money together, because, hey, they was operating, right? Operating as a church. And, hey, if you guys going to do collecting or put something together, have it already ready before I get there. Now concerning the collection of the saints, that's what this is talking about. I'm sorry, concerning the collection for the saints. It's Paul talking. As I have given order to the churches of Galatia, because I told Galatia them, the saints in Galatia, I gave them orders on how they need to deal with the collection for the saints, right? I'm giving you the same orders. He said, even so do ye. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as God have prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. So whatever, man, you more than likely probably was going to get there on a Saturday. So when I get there, I'm going to deal, because we saw in another place that he was reasoning with them out the scriptures, 3 Sabbath days, in Acts. So it's more than likely probably is going to be getting there on a Saturday. But even if he wasn't getting there on a Saturday, hey, I don't want y'all dealing with this when I get there. Care what day it is. Don't be dealing with it. I don't want you having to go collect and gather money when I get there. I already have it together. You see? See how simple that is? He said, upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store. So when the first day of the week get here, don't do it on Saturday. Go ahead and gather up everything you're going to gather to give to the saints. As God have prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. So they could have been getting money. They could have been getting some clothes together. Ain't no telling what they was getting together. But the point is, make sure you get it on the first day of the week. So when I get there, we don't got to deal with this. See how simple that is? I just don't understand how you can be in the word, you call yourself a preacher, and you get caught up on simple things like this. That go to show you, man, it ain't the wisdom of the world that matters. It's God wisdom that matters. When you get puffed up and high-minded, you can't be taught nothing. Let's go into Acts chapter 2 and verse 1. He said, a comment that he made regarding Acts 2 and verse 1, he says that this is Pentecost Sunday. That's a lie. You ain't going to read in the Bible nowhere that this is Pentecost Sunday. You don't read in the Bible Pentecost Sunday at all. Okay? The day of Pentecost fell on the first day of the week, but you don't read that it changed to Pentecost Sunday. Pentecost points to, represents 50. All right? And what it means, the day of Pentecost has a greater meaning behind it. The meaning behind the day of Pentecost is a representation of when the Lord returns. He's going to return on the 50th year. Whatever that 50th year is, we don't know. We know it ain't going to be on no Sunday. It's a year that he's talking about. But it represents the year of Jubilee when every man going free, they're going back home. If you're from Europe, you're going back to Europe. You're European, you're going back to Europe. You're Indian, you're going back to India. You're Israelite, you're going back to Israel. You're Chinese, guess what? You're going back to China. Russia, you're going back to Russia. Every man gonna go free and go back home. That's what Pentecost is a representation of. All right. But also during the day of Pentecost, the Lord poured out his spirit on them. It says, and when the day of Pentecost is fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. Right? Then you read further on, it was Jews that came up to keep the day of Pentecost. All right. And when they start, and when Peter and them start preaching, matter of fact, it says in verse 2, and suddenly there came a sound from heaven as a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as a fire, and it set upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance, right? And they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So you had these Jews coming up. First off, wasn't no Gentiles there, wasn't no Hamites there. It was Jews there. They came up to keep the feast in Jerusalem. What feast were they keeping? They were keeping the feast of Pentecost. All right. The Galileans, or the disciples that were there, began to speak. And when they begin to speak, guess what? They begin to speak in the languages that these brothers had learned in the land that they had came up out of. And that was the great miracle that took place that day. That's why it's going to tell you in verse 7. It says, verse 6. Now, when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speaking his own language. Hey, that's a miracle right there. That's a sign, though. You know, speaking in tongue, like the Bible tells you, speaking in tongue is for the non-believer, though. It says they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, "Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how here we every man in our own tongue where we were born? How is it that the place that we were born, the language that come with the place that we were born, how is it that these men being Galileans, how can we understand what they're saying? What is going on here? How is it that we hear every man in our tongue where we were born, right? Parthians and Medes, Elamites, and the dwellers in Mesopotamia and Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, and the parts of Libya about Cyrene, strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, right? All these people, Cretes and Arabians, we do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of God. And they were all amazed and were in doubt, saying one to another, what mean this? Others mocking said, these men are full of new wine. Hey, man, can't nothing be done, without somebody having to mock, right? He said, man, these dudes drunk. They got that new wine. But Peter gonna let them know, nah, we ain't got no new wine. That's why I said in verse 14, but Peter standing up with the 11 lifted up his voice and said unto them, you men of Judea and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken as ye suppose, seeing it is but the third hour of the day. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. That's what the third hour of the day is. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel. So they ain't drunk, but this is you seeing a foreshadow. You seeing something that was spoken by the prophet Joel in the Old Testament. You're seeing a sign of it. You're seeing a little bit of it happen right now. This is what took place on the day of Pentecost. It said, come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, your old men shall dream dreams, right? And on my servants and on my handmaids I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I will show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. He telling you what's going to happen at the end of the world. It ain't good. Who the hell says, excuse me, who says it's going to be on a Sunday? It don't say nothing about being on no Sunday. This is a representation of the year of Pentecost. That's what this is talking about. So how we just going to say it's Pentecost Sunday? You don't read that in the Bible nowhere. The day of Pentecost, when this took place, Pentecost falls on Sunday all the time. It's the 50th day. The Lord tell you to count when you get when you get into the land and you get the first fruits. You put the first fruits inside of a sheaf, and tomorrow after the weekly Sabbath, you take it to the priest, right? And he gonna wave it before the Lord for you as an offering to be accepted for you, right? And then once he waived that offering, the next Sabbath, that's gonna be you count 7 Sabbaths that need to be complete after he waive it, for you waive it as an offering to the Lord for you, right? So 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. You're gonna count 7 Sabbaths afterwards, right? After that, after he waived that offering. So that's 7. That's 1. When you get to that Sabbath after he waive it, because he's gonna waive it on that Sunday. When he waive it, when you get to that following Sunday, that's 7 days. The next Saturday, 14 days. The next Saturday, 21 days. The Saturday after that is 28 days. Saturday after that is 35 days. We have 5 Sabbaths now, right? The Saturday after that is 42 days. That's 6 Sabbaths. The Sabbath after that is 49 days, right? Then he said, and that's 7 Sabbaths right there. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Then he said, you're going to count. And he said, to the morrow after the Sabbath. And then you're going to bring your other wave offering. You're going to bring the other. And that's, we ain't getting off on the Pentecost, but that's 50 right there. Every year it's going to fall on day number 50. And that's the point. Day number 50 always falls the morrow after the Sabbath. You got to count 7 Sabbaths, then the morrow after the Sabbath, hey, that's a day of Pentecost. And that's what this represented right here. But it's a bigger picture. It represents a year of Pentecost, when the Lord going to come back during this year, this 50th year, and let this man go free. That's how you know this ain't got nothing to do with a Sunday. Nothing at all. Free to worship when you want. That's a lie. Let's go into, that's another statement that he made. Let's go into Revelation chapter 22. Let's see what it says in the last book of the Bible. Are you free to worship when you want? No, you're not. Revelation chapter 22. Let's see what it says. Verse 14, it says, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city, right? For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever maketh a lie. But in order for you to get back into the kingdom or get back into get this everlasting life, guess what you got to do? You got to keep God's commandments. You can't worship when you want to worship. You're not free to worship. You listen. Okay, let's clarify that. If you want to get up in the morning and worship God, have at it. You can worship God any day. Listen, God loves for you to worship him. But listen, you're going to have to worship God in spirit and in truth. You know, if you ain't keeping God's Sabbath day, then what you worshiping for? You're going to have to keep God's. That's why I tell you in John 4:24, God is the spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And the way you worship in the spirit and in truth, you keep his laws, you keep his statutes and his commandments. In order for you to get into the kingdom of God, you're going to have to keep God's commandments. We saw in Exodus chapter 20 one of those commandments is remember the Sabbath day, not remember the first day, not remember Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay? You're going to have to remember the 7th day of the week. That's the day that God sanctified. Don't let nobody pluck you up, because that Sabbath breaker going to be in line with the adulterer. The person that break the Sabbath, he's going to be in line with the murderer. The same exact line, sisters and brothers. So just make sure you understand that. You question your preacher like I told you the other night. And if it's not lining up with the word of God, you need to get out of there. You're going to have to keep God's Sabbath day. Why in the New Testament are we talking about some commandments? Did God make up some new commandments and do away with the old ones? Yeah, he told you love God and love your brother. He said, I give you a new commandment. But he ain't say, and matter of fact, and he said, on all these hang all the law. Like, for instance, if you loving God, you loving your brother, guess what? You ain't going to commit adultery. You ain't going to covet. You ain't going to murder your brother. You understand? You ain't going to covet after your neighbor's wife if you love your brother. He said, on these hang all the law. Then he had another one on the other side, right? He said, what, you going to love the Lord your God with all your heart, right? How you going to love the Lord of God with all your heart? Because remember, he said on these two hang all the law, right? So that means you establish the law, hang the law on these two right here. Okay, so if you love God, what he told you to do? He said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, didn't he? That's how you show you love God. You show you love God by not worshiping the other gods. You show you love God by not taking the Lord's name in vain. You show you love God by not bowing down and worshiping idols. This is how you show you love God. That don't mean you just give lip service. No, your faith has to show that you love God by your actions, by your works. All right? So Free to worship when you want? No, we just saw that you're going to have to keep these commands. Blessed are they that do his command. You got to do something that they may have right may have right to the tree of life. This is what man got kicked out of. We got kicked out of the garden. The Lord put that tree of life. He covered it with the cherub angels, so we couldn't get back to it. But in order for you to get back to this tree of life, you're gonna have to keep God's commandments. The very thing that these preachers are telling you that you don't have to keep. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. So who gonna be on the outside of the gates of the city? Dogs. Dogs in this case talking about, for the most part, your false preachers. Could be talking about sodomites, but nah, look like he talking about false preachers. Because right after that, he said you're sorcerers, witchcraft, and all that. And whoremongers. There they go, whoremongers. You like to hang among whores? You gonna be in that lake of fire. Murder, you like to kill? You're gonna be in that lake of fire. And idolatry, like the worship other gods, that's what idolatry is. You're gonna be in that lake of fire. And whoso love and make a lie, turn that word of God upside down. You're gonna be in that fire. And if you're agreeing with this nonsense, you're gonna be in that fire. So last thing he said that I wanted to point out, he said Sunday was the blueprint from the time of Jesus, not the Roman papacy. We know that is a lie. You ain't see that nowhere in the Bible. You do not see that Sunday is a blueprint. I need to be able to read this out of the Bible where it says strictly Sunday was the blueprint from the time of Jesus, not the Roman papacy. We showed that it came from Rome, which took you all the way back to Egypt. Had nothing to do with Jesus at all. So I hope somebody got some understanding. I hope somebody's edified by this in Jesus' name.